Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sunny Side podcast. Today, I am joined by one other than Joshua Heath. Josh is the president of a company called WipeOS. I'm going to let Josh introduce himself. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing well. Happy to be here, Fen. Thank you for having me.
No
It is
worries.
exciting to be able to have conversations like this. So, yeah, you kind of led into it. WipeOS is a software solution that we have put together that helps companies with data destruction, secure equipment testing and reporting, as well as imaging. Sort of a lot of things around common IT related tasks, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But again, happy to be here. As the president of WipeOS for the last 7 years, I've worked with our team here out of Minnesota to build out a really great solution, and we just keep doing fun things with this. It's exciting.
Perfect. It sounds very exciting. So, for the people that don't really know, so who roughly do you serve, and kind of what kind of audience are you kind of targeting in that perspective?
Yeah, we came out of the ITAD world, quite literally. We started about, like I said, 7, 8 years ago, and we knew that there was a need for the IT asset disposition organizations. I had actually worked with one, and so we saw this opportunity to say, okay, there are solutions out there, but they're very expensive. The
Yeah.
support isn't really great for the average ITAD, and so it really was one of those things where there was that opportunity was in front of us, and we wanted to kind of build it for a number of reasons. But really, yeah, kind of servicing that market has been our main focus, the IT asset disposition firms, and we are doing a lot more things now to help with more on-site. We would refer to them as enterprise projects, so for on-site wiping and doing things kind of at a different scale, because obviously a lot of the electronics recyclers are doing, thousands of drives a day. Your average IT professional is not wiping 1,000, but when they do need to wipe them, it's very important, and we want to make that easy for them as well.
Okay, makes sense, makes sense. And what do you think kind of sets you aside from other competitors inside of the market, Josh?
Yeah, it's absolutely the support piece. I mean, because like I said, my whole team, all of our developers are here in-house, across the hall from me here. For a software company, we're kind of unique. We've always actually come into the office throughout COVID, everything. We've
Nice.
always just been in the room,
Handy.
and that really does have an effect on, the communication with users, the relationships. So it's big there. That's one of those things that's hard to understand until you're working with somebody and you understand that they can respond quickly to questions, be thorough about sort of, training or new features and all of these things. So we're always working on that. I'd say the other thing too is just, again, it's the difference of sort of the small business versus the big, right? We're still a small organization. We're flexible, we're growing and we're finding new opportunities for adding value with our tool, but it's also we're listening to people and users and open to ideas. And yeah, I've got the best team in this space for sure. These guys are really, really awesome, and we continue to just make things work better.
Yeah, I think that's key to constantly innovate and stuff like that. Okay, perfect. And do you think there was like a specific moment when you was like almost like an aha moment where you was like, okay, I think we should actually kind of try something here. I think we're onto something.
It's funny. I have that probably once a month. Is like an
Really?
aha of
Don't we
like,
all? Yeah.
yeah, I had a fantastic one just this morning. Like, and this is why, and I'm realizing this is why this has been such a fun career for me because it's like, again, in software, anything's possible. Like,
Mhm.
that's the first rule. But the
Yeah.
second rule is, okay, you don't have all the resources and time and money in the world, so it's not really everything's possible. You got to prioritize things, make sure they're of value. So, to your question, I mean, I this morning we were thinking about and talking about parts of WipeOS in which we could show device values, for example. You're
Okay.
running them through laptops, desktop servers. We have the health and the all the details of what that device is in a second life market, right? What the value is. So I've been kicking around ideas for a long time about, okay, how do we do more to show device value in WipeOS? We're not currently doing it, but we have the information. And in today's world, APIs and all these things, it's not too much to ask for, right? So the aha was changing this from a value add for ITADs, but more for, again, this enterprise market. So anybody that runs our solution can say, at that snapshot at that day, this specific laptop's worth roughly this amount. And this is really valuable with hard drives because a lot of times companies are shredding drives because it's easy, quick, they can see it, they feel good about data's
Mhm.
gone. And I understand that. And there sometimes is a good case, I would say, after wiping, shredding's appropriate. But for tracking and for really making sure you're getting the useful life out of devices, you ought to wipe them at least a few times. I mean, we hear stories about contracts where the drives are still under warranty and they're getting shredded, and it's just
Really?
everybody loses. Like everybody loses in that. There's no, besides the company that manufactures the drives, I
Yeah. That's
guess.
a pretty horror situation, to be fair. Absolutely.
It is. It is. And so this was one of those things where now, like, I'm excited about it because it's a new idea, but there is that piece to go, okay, before you decide to shred a drive, we're telling you this market value of this drive, and money tends to make
Mhm.
people kind of make different decisions,
Absolutely.
right? And so if you're looking at $1,000 drive, it's really hard to throw that in the chipper. So anyway, so roundabout answer to your simple question is it is continuously like a aha and what else can we do, and again, we're a small team, so it's we never have the resources that we would like to do all of the things we would like, but at the same time, when you have a structure, I think, that prioritizes the value, right? Is this valuable for everyone? Is this valuable for professionals that are managing these devices? It does do a good job of kind of steering the roadmap. And so we're still developing a lot of that. I wouldn't say we would be ready to write the book on how that goes. There's a lot of interesting theories. I mean, the fact that we have a podcast to discuss this and in this
Exactly.
environment, there's a lot of space of creativity and ideas, especially in software, because it's soft and you can do anything. But it does become that challenge that there always has to be that balance of some business acumen. You got to have some money involved because this it doesn't just
Absolutely.
build itself, and then
Mm.
also making sure it's useful. So
Well, it's
yeah,
only going to get easier, though, isn't it, from this point? I mean, how long have you been going for, Josh? Now, 7 years, is that right?
7 years, and I keep my hair short, so you can't see how gray it is,
I was,
but
I was just about to say, like, how has the kind of journey been? Because obviously, was you there from day one? Obviously, you're there from day one for like a startup.
yeah,
So, like, how has the journey been, and how has it kind of got easier over time, or has it got easier? Has it got harder?
that's where I should write a book on that
Yeah,
subject right there, because
yeah,
the unique part, I mean, it's unique for any organization, but what was has been an amazing ride is the characters, and I'm not saying that as a slight in any way. The characters that we've had as partners, leaders, very involved in WipeOS that have kind of come and gone, frankly. Some of these, some have stayed around. I mean, our lead developer,
oh,
it's
shit.
basically been him and I since day one, and then there's been other people above and under us, so to speak, in the structure of things. So it's it's interesting to see how much an organization can be affected by a personality, especially someone who's leading the company. For the first few years, it was more stressful than it needed to be, and it's just startups
And,
are
yeah, of
tend to be that way. But we
course.
had a different individual at the helm that just, did a great job, very decisive, got things done, but was not, the ideal work environment. And after a while, you start going, okay, this is where I spend a lot of my time. I don't necessarily want to be, you know, stressing out so bad. So we kind of shifted that around to a different culture. And now we're kind of back to a very, I think, a more honest, again, I know I've got a room of smart guys. We're all here to do work and get things done. Nobody's, just hoping to find some no-show job sort of opportunity or something where, there's no accountability. It's definitely we're all in it together. And so it does, yeah, it does continue to be kind of fun that way where we can sort of create the culture here. But I would say, yeah, from a small business perspective, again, it's interesting when you interact with people that come from the big business world and they try to bring some of that, and it's usually helpful in a lot of ways. But there's a very thin line to where, hey, again, we're 8, 9 guys essentially, different pieces
Yeah.
there, here and there. We can't have 10 meetings a week about what's going on. We got to do the
Yeah.
work. So anyway, lots of stuff like that in the small and big business kind of setup of things. Yeah.
That's very interesting you say that because obviously it is only going to get easier. Obviously, actually get hitting the ground running and getting it off the floor is obviously the hardest point of things. So, I mean, where do you kind of where do you kind of see yourself in the next like 5 to 10? Have you got like a goal or something that you want to
Yeah,
want to be in or
I just did a little bit of an analysis on this. GPT is your friend these days, and it's just
yeah,
amazing
absolutely,
the ways you can kind of work with that. And we always have a because I have software guys, across the hall from me. I know more and more about how not to depend on those tools, but how to find the delicate balance. So anyway, it's, looking at the analysis that I just did of this space directly with my competitors and things going on, I think, there's the understanding of data erasure and the use and the need for it isn't going away. But I also think the additional values around um, IT professionals being able to manage that and not just saying, hey, we send it to some company or we trust these guys to take care of it, but they take the ownership of,
Mhm.
again, the data destruction, but also potentially recovering the value of devices and just being a little more in tune with that as an IT pro. I think that's where a lot of this is going to go and is going. I mean, storage has changed a lot. What's kind of keeps me a little nervous sometimes is, yeah, okay, there's conversations of what if there's no more hard drives? Okay, well, data still got to live somewhere. What does that look like? I just read about the new data centers they're putting out in outer space. So that would be interesting to try to figure out how to wipe those
Very
drives.
interesting. Yeah.
It's just we got to start talking to SpaceX and figuring out how to get guys out there. I don't know. On-site data destruction takes a whole new view that way. But realistically, again, I think it is like I was saying earlier, just working with so many companies now, especially the ITAD space, the problems they have in processing end of life equipment is very much the same for, IT managers and enterprise roles. It's just a little more focused, or they're dealing with more of these quantities of projects where most IT guys are doing a refresh maybe every 3, 5 years, different scenarios. But I do see again a lot more value being put into that side, and really just trying to continue to build on the trust and the brand that we've built. This is a sensitive subject, and if we had any serious, any data breaches or anything of that kind, we wouldn't be talking today. It'd be a quick
Yeah,
lights out. So
absolutely.
yeah,
That's interesting. Obviously, we're in a bit of an interesting time in the world, obviously, with AI commencing and all of that jazz going on. I mean, do you think AI is going to be your friend in the next few years in regards to actually giving you business, and or do you think it's going to do some of the work for you, or how do you kind of see that playing out?
yeah. The way I get sort of off the nervous side of AI is that my developers say, look, our inputs for WipeOS, at least for what this project, our main sources of truth and data entry is coming from the devices that are real life physical devices. Okay, so that's neat. So at least that's part of what we're doing cannot be AI. They're not going to AI generate a laptop, right? Like that is a physical thing. So
Yeah,
that keeps some of my anxiety there. And I do think there are more and more tools that will complement what we're doing,
yeah,
and so that's where we can use it and really benefit. But there's always kind of that nervousness of like, yeah, how hard is it to build something like this? If AI can write code, well, again, good luck. I mean, it's a unique space we're in and dealing with all the kind of devices we have and the way. This is why I come back to the support piece because it is certainly an important part of this because there's new devices, new challenges, and you got to have that communication and someone on the other end thinking. Now, again, when that singularity happens and AI's kind of taking over everything, yeah, we might do this a little bit differently. We might have
yeah.
some changes there. It's going to affect things, but I right now, it's definitely helping me in the business development. Again, road mapping, um, design, and scoping projects with the software on the software side is it's tricky. You can't just
Mm,
blindly sort of write up without any understanding of what you're writing. I mean, you could,
absolutely.
but you're going to have problems later. So it's a delicate thing, but it is a really powerful tool right now. Again, for me in the small business sense of developing and structuring ideas and making sure it's just not, you know, Josh runs in the office on a Thursday and says, "Hey, we got to start putting value on things because I got
Yeah.
this idea." And they all go, "I have no idea what that actually looks like in our
Mm.
software." And I can actually kind of interpret that myself, which is neat.
So how are you actually using kind of AI and automation? I mean, are you using any automation on like a day to day, obviously for your actual self in terms of how you operate and how you do things?
A bit in more of like sales and marketing, I'd say, not in our code development at all. As a policy so far, it has definitely been, besides like documentation tasks and things that aren't in the code, no AI in our code, not touching it, don't
And
trust it.
how are you using it in regards to your sales and marketing? What type of tools and stuff are you using?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, it's a little bit like this competitive analysis I just did, which actually reached out to a third party, but you could tell it was AI tools that had put it together. But it did a
Mhm.
great job. It pulled from, keywords and search data and valuable resources that aren't just random articles or random noise. And it did a nice job of kind of saying, okay, here's where you think you're at, here's where the industry is at, here's kind of, you know, some indicators of where to go. So that was super helpful. I think day to day, again, just clarifying ideas. It's very tricky to communicate the developer world to the real world, right? That's always, um, you know, it's a challenge because it's just one of those things that when someone says, "Hey, I want this to do this," or "I'd like it if we did this feature," it's a whole different language, quite literally, for a developer to go, "Okay, well, this is what has to happen to make that work." So yeah,
Interesting.
so AI has been helpful that way for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it has, and I feel like for a lot of small businesses or any or big businesses as well, AI is becoming a very fundamental part of how they operate and stuff. Okay, so obviously you've got a few hundred users now, and obviously doing what you're doing. How is your most like efficient way to kind of get clients? Like how are you doing your sales and marketing and business development and stuff?
Yeah, good question. I mean, our sales process is to introduce WipeOS in a demo slash, I probably use the term incorrectly, webinar setting, right? A
Yeah,
Zoom
yeah,
call so we can screen share, really show the solution in motion. And that's another thing that I'm working on right now is a lot more of our materials for training and sort of certifying our users as competent WipeOS users because the ground changes under them. I mean, it changes under me as far as the way the software is today will be different in a month from now, and little features and workflows kind of shift along the way. So it is a good two-way communication with users to kind of go, hey, it's okay if you've forgotten how to use it, or we've changed things too. Make sure you're kind of revisiting these things, and that is an ongoing challenge, really, to make sure as we improve things, it fits all these different use cases, and that's always kind of an ongoing conversation. So yeah, trying to bring a lot of this from text content to more, video or interactive content. And it's a slow moving process, I think, for us because it's our baby. And so you're like, hey, here's an intro video to how to use it. Well, why is the Ethernet cable blue in this picture? But it's like, well, you know, it'll
yeah,
work, but there's a debate to have on every detail, and it's good and bad. Sometimes there's some great things that come up and you're like, okay, we need to make sure that's crystal clear. On the other hand, you're like, okay, it shouldn't take us 2 months to make our intro video, which it's
yeah.
not, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And how do your customers like find you? Do you do like referrals or partnerships or like how are they actually coming across you guys?
Yeah, good question. A lot of it's been direct, just reaching out again in the ITAD world. That's kind of a smaller market and very specific, vertical. Right now, we are working with a lot more MSPs and
Hmm.
trying to set them up as either affiliates or resellers. So I do have a program that we've set up for affiliate resellers, and really I'm working on more kind of white labeling as
Nice.
well. So we want to make this, we're doing a new release of our solution that will kind of be a different deployment. Right now, we send an appliance device that users would have to boot their devices from. It's outstanding. It's great. Works in all kinds of environments, but we're also adding the ability for users to create their own USB version kind of locally, and then they can do a lot of this without having to have that appliance device. So that'll make it a little lighter weight, especially for smaller projects. Um, and I think that again will make this where it's here's a solution, here's kind of explainers and just how it works. Have at it, try it, let us know if you need help. But right now it's very involved in a, like I said, demo presentation, um, getting an appliance out there, onboarding once it's set up. And then it's pretty simple though. All of this is fairly simple. We get a lot of good feedback that our user or our UI, our user interface is very, very easy to follow. The workflow is simple. We can complicate this as humans do with workflows and different ideas, but it is really, this isn't all that complicated. I always like to say WipeOS becomes like the top of the funnel. Once you've run a
Yeah.
machine through our system, you have accountability for it. From there, it's kind of downhill. So.
Interesting. And I hear that you said earlier about progressing into like the enterprise level companies and the bigger companies. I mean, do you think that will change as you progress up that kind of ranks, or do you think the way that you will actually introduce yourself to them companies will change as that happens?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely becoming, I mean, sales as I know it is kind of done, right? Like it's funny, I have a phone here on my desk. I don't touch that
Yeah,
thing.
that's an old phone, isn't it?
That's an old phone, and
Yeah.
it happened to just kind of be there. I mean, I use my cell phone for everything, but at the same time, like, you don't have cold calling activities and things like you used to have at least any success with that. Some companies still do some of it, but you know, doing calls like this and conversations like this are really great. I think the future of how companies are doing business is a little bit more of that I know a guy scenario, as I call it, right? Like you already have a relationship for one service or task, and then you kind of are like, well, yeah, but we need some drywall put in, and your IT guy is like, well, actually, I know a guy. I mean, that's a big jump, but having all of those relationships and being able to be another partner in someone's pocket or a tool in
More
the
kind of
toolbox.
referral based, like word of mouth, you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, because some of this, especially in the enterprise side of how these projects come up, they're moving quickly, and maybe something there's a window for 3 weeks to 6 weeks where somebody really is doing refreshes or testing or wiping things. And so it's not, you don't have as much time to do sort of the education and all of that stuff. You have to be kind of quick, available to kind of say, okay, here, download this tool, put it on your devices, here's your certifications, you've done it, in a couple hours. And so we're a little not quite that agile yet, but that's where I'm seeing things go. And again, I do think more of the on-site, like companies either doing the data destruction themselves or even the ITADs doing it before they take the equipment off-site. I think that's going to be the a lot more popular as things move on.
Interesting. Is that kind of where you are right now, or is that kind of where you see it going in the future?
We're just getting started with the on-site stuff. Like in the last year, companies are still, and it's tough because it takes time to wipe devices. You have to set up, turn on devices. You can't, and that's where shredding a lot of times is a good argument. And I understand it when someone says, look, the truck backs up, we throw all the drives in there and it's out of here in a couple hours and everything's done. And it's like, well, if you did spend a little more time with it and these devices could be reused, extended, the data is just as gone.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a bit of a process, and companies have policies that just take a long time to change. I mean, there's still, what do I see, like the 3 pass wipe method is definitely a legacy wiping method, but it's written in agreements and contracts or SOPs for companies,
Yeah.
so they'll do it. And you're quite literally spending there's two more full wipes going on top of what's already been done. Not a great way to explain it, but you're just doing two more passes of the same exact thing. And everybody knows NIST has the 1 pass, they have clear and purge. There's all these great just it's the same thing, but companies are rerunning passes just because it's a policy on the books, and it's like, okay, again, wasted energy, wasted time, but it takes a while to change those policies. So we're getting there. A lot of
That
educational stuff out there.
Yeah, that's interesting, 100%. And what do you think, like when a company actually starts to use WipeOS, what do you actually think like retains them and actually keeps them around like long term, do you think?
Good question. I think it's they realize because these tasks are kind of they're very important, but they're also very routine and kind of it's not fun wiping a drive. I mean, you do
Yeah.
a couple of keystrokes and you come back in 15 minutes or an hour later, and you have to do another task to shut it down, put it away, whatever. Um, so I think really simplifying and automating that for people and roles that are responsible for that really makes it gives them peace of mind, gives them a lot more insight and control over those devices, as opposed to, leaving it at the dock full of data to get picked up, get paperwork maybe 60, 90 days later in some cases.
Mhm.
Again, I love my ITADs. It's my industry. I'm a big advocate for them, but sometimes that process can take, a long time and leave room for error. So we try to avoid that. And I think that's where, again, the future of IT professionals using tools like this. I mean,
Yeah.
there's stuff out there, right? Microsoft and Apple have their device management, you know, solutions that are kind of the same thing that we're working towards, but in a whole different angle, and having more of a broader net to say, okay, any of these things that come into your environment, boot them, track them, test them, rinse, repeat.
Absolutely, and I think that is key. Like you said, test everything and rinse and repeat. Interesting you say that. Okay, okay. So when you first started, Josh, 7 years ago, if you could give yourself one bit of advice, looking back now in hindsight, what do you think that would be? Is there anything that
Mm,
would literally have revolutionized how you done things?
that's a good one. I would say. it's a little bit more around understanding the pace of the industry a little bit, because when you're in a small business, you're really hoping to sort of double your revenue week over week, month over month, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know, and I think if I mean, we still hope to try to always speed up that curve of how of what the revenue is, right? That's always part of business. But I think, you know, after this experience of doing it for a while, it's such an interesting use case for us where again it's the longevity of the users. It's getting more and more users but keeping them happy and keeping them reusing it and them getting value out of it, and then that grows obviously to bigger numbers and bigger things, but that takes a long time. It doesn't happen, you know, overnight. So yeah, I would tell a younger me, you know, stay patient, don't get too frustrated, don't try to rush it. um, you know, but that's hard, especially in small business. You're just like, you've never made enough money. You've never done enough, completed enough tasks, no matter what, you know. So, again, double-edged sword kind of a thing. But when you're starting out, you got to give yourself some grace and know that like, hey, it's me and the guys I'm with and the guys and gals, whatever, and we're gonna do our best. And you know, it's not just so simple. You know, did you try
That,
hard
that's
enough?
in
Did you
that's
not?
in any new venture, new business, though, isn't it? That's not necessarily even industry specific.
No. No,
Yeah.
it's everything. And that's what, you know, again, professionally, as I've done things longer, I find out, okay, well, you know, in a very corporate setting, it's different. You're not, most people aren't involved with whether or not the company is really going to be sustainable or improve or make money. You know, they have an important role in the company and they're paid, but it's not at all the same. You know, if you keep it simple and just say, for example, keeping the lights on, you know, that is a thing that you in a small business you are all a
Is
part of.
you need the
But
lights on, yeah.
yeah, those lights
Absolutely.
need to be on. But at a large, you know, corporate organization, it's just they're going to be fine with or without you. You ought to do a good job, but it's a whole
Mm.
different world, you know.
That's interesting you say that. Well, Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure. So, for the viewers, where can they find you if they want to reach out or if they want to find out some more information about WipeOS? Where could they find you?
Yeah, wipeos.com. We've got a fairly new updated website. Looks pretty neat. Josh at wipeos.com is my email. Keep it simple. We try to make this communication easy, so if you do reach out in the contact us form, it's coming across my desk and the teams as well. Support at wipeos um, is our support email, but also general questions, Q&A. Of course, I'm all over LinkedIn, run around at conferences and things, so try to make myself easy to find. And again, um, this is one of those things where we look for partners that want to use this. You know, we're not just trying to sell this and say, here, good luck. It's an ongoing communication, and we like working with people to see what we can do.
That's really good. Well, Josh, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I'm sure that the viewers have got some good value from this. Thank you very much, my friend.
Fan, well done, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye bye.